He said, in fact, I recommend that you retire from work. I can write a report and you'll be retired with a pension. But I didn't want that. It felt as though I was being sort of given up and dying. Giving up no purpose to my life anymore. No, not worth anything. So I said, I don't really want to give up yet. And he said, okay, it's up to you. So I carried on working for another year. But he wrote to the force medical officer, and he said, I'm going to write this letter as though you might need to retire. So he said, I might paint the picture quite darkly. He said, but that's in case you change your mind and want to retire. So I said, okay, He said, I'll send you home with a copy. No, he said, have you not been sent a copy? He said, well, he said, I've already sent that letter. And I said, well, you told me you were going to send a copy, because I think I spoke to him on the phone. I said, I've not had a copy. And Kath's going, she's ever so angry. Why has he not had a copy? Why has the work had it before we have? So he's like, I don't know anything about it. It's my secretary that deals with that. So she rushed off and got us a copy. But because he'd not mentioned anything about it changing from a 3 to a 4, I just folded it up, stuffed it in my pocket and went home. Got home and I rang, we've got like a prayer chain at church and they always want to know what's happening. So I rang the lady who was in charge and I said, while I was talking to her, I said, I found this letter in my pocket. And I said, Kath, have a look at that. I said, this is from Dr. Boyanger, and I was just talking to the lady on the phone. And Kath goes, hey, what's this? And it said, the tumour has now transformed from a grade 3 astrocytoma to a grade 4 glioma, and the prognosis is very poor. That hit me like a brick. I was like, what? I really felt I hadn't got until Christmas. I thought, I'm going to die before Christmas, I think it said something like, the majority of patients die within 2 years. What? But I felt as though I wasn't going to last that long. So that really upset me. Again, it was like getting used. Can I trust you again with this? What's going on? How long have I got to live? And I went to work, took the letter to show my boss, who was a bit more practical. She looked at it obviously with different eyes and said, hang on a minute, this letter was written even before you had your scan. So this letter was written quite some time ago. So, and you're still well, so is there that much to worry about? And also she's not actually said your type of tumour, so it's sort of, it's a generalised. So I was like, oh yeah, okay. So, but they did sort of say, well, you'll have to work reduced hours, which was a relief really, because I enjoyed work, but it was it was not always easy to get there and back. I used to cycle down to the train station, get the train to Leicester, and then cycle to work. And in sunny days, it was nice. Rainy days, it was horrible.
It's interesting what you said about your outlook going back to work.
Yes.
Because you could have accepted that early retirement.
I could.
At a, for you, maybe a premature stage.
Mm.
But you felt you needed that purpose. And again, a lot of people do say that maintaining a role or a function is very important to them.
That's right, yes.
And without that, you can almost become more prone to the deterioration in your condition if it was to deteriorate.
Absolutely right.
And you definitely fought on. But was it hard to maintain that work during that phase?
It was. Some days were difficult because my boss is a brilliant lady. Well, ex-boss was a brilliant lady. But sometimes she used to speak too fast. Even when I was well, she used to give you about 6 tasks at once. And I had to say, when I came back from the first time, I said, Barbara, you're just talking too fast, and I can't grasp things if you talk so fast and give me so many things to do. I'm sorry, look, but could you just talk a bit slower and just give me 2 tasks? And I can do one now, I can write the other one down, I can do it. Then when I've done them, give me some more. So I did have to slow down, and I couldn't do things as quickly. And she learned as we worked together, and I was given a different role, an intelligence role, because I couldn't drive, so I could no longer go to crime scenes. Although I did get my licence back in that 2005-2009 period. So for 18 months, I went back to my old role, and I quite enjoyed it.
So did you stay in that role,
I did.
Or a similar role until the present day?
No, they in 2010, at the end of my chemotherapy, my boss said, this is not very nice, Chris. I've just been to a meeting where, because of government cuts, they're going to be making a lot of redundancies, and in our department, your name's first on the list. because you're so ill, you can't do the role you're employed to do. Even though you're so valuable to me, they won't have it. And I thought, oh my goodness, this was probably November 2010. So I'd not long finished the chemotherapy. That PCV also was very unpleasant. It gave me the most awful stomach. When I was on it, the symptoms lasted for about 5 days, and the pain was awful. You never wanted to eat anything, but strangely, when you did eat, the pain went away while the food was going through your stomach. But you know, it was such you didn't really want to eat. And
so what's the current situation with work?
They retired me. Well, no, I went back to my consultant and said, you said like over a year ago that I should consider retirement. I said, they're now threatening me with redundancy. Would you still support me to retire on ill health grounds? And he looked at me with a weird look. I said, of course I would, Chris. He said, you've done another year. He said, you've done so well, to do another year. You've not sort of said, I'm going to rip the system, I'm going to retire and, live a life of luxury. Not that I could, but you've tried hard. You've done another year, of course. So normally, you probably know with the NHS, police, whatever, they would send you to a medical board. I didn't have any of that because it was a grade 4 delay. It was like, oh my goodness, let this chap retire as soon as possible. But it was actually January the 15th was my retirement date, 2011. So I felt awful, when I first got retired. I didn't know what I was getting up in the morning. My wife was still working. I didn't know what to do with myself. It was like, well, they wanted me back as a volunteer. I said, yeah, I'll come back as a volunteer. But they were so slow in organising that. It was like 6 months later, and loads of security forms. You'd think I'd never worked for the police. I worked for them for 31 years. It felt like they never knew me at all, And eventually I got permission to go back in. But for that time, it was a real battle, I was sort of doing lots of jobs around the house to please my wife, having some purpose, saying to people at church, if you need anything doing, when I'm well, ask me, I'll try and help. Just because I needed a purpose, I needed to be useful.
I think a lot of people say that as well. So how many days volunteering are you doing now?
I'm not, because I've been so poorly recently that I've not been able to. She wants me to run a particular part of the programme, which nobody else is currently doing. It's very important, but I'm just not well enough. I've got to get to Forsaid Quarters at Enderby now, so it's 2 buses. It's just too difficult for me to. I'm not well enough to give the time available that the job needs. So I've said, if you can you get me permission to work at Syston Police Station, because it's much nearer. My wife goes once a week to work at Oxfam there. I could go once a week, guaranteed, maybe twice a week, because it's distraction burglaries. It's really important work where old people are robbed, but they said, no, you can't work there because it's health and safety. You've got to work with one of us.